Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started in just a minute. Just let people continue to log in. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to discuss what you need to know to access the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. My name is Aisha Driggers. I'm with the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunity. I'm the program administrator. Also from our office, we have on here Kalina Ginyard. She's responsible for our supplier diversity, and she also assists with the compliance programs. Kalina will be watching the chat to ask any questions that come up. So you can just type those into the chat, and we'll also give time towards the end if you would like to ask your question. We ask that you please keep your microphone on mute until the end. I want to go over a couple of things regarding our office before we get into our presentation. Oops. So on behalf of our director, Melissa Handler, we do welcome you, and we hope that you find this training very helpful. One of the items I wanted to mention was the city was a recipient of funding from the Economic Development Administration under the CARES Act. We've almost completely exhausted those funds, but we do anticipate that through the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 that was recently passed, that we may receive additional funding. So be on the lookout for any information regarding that and eligible uses for that fund. Also, you may be aware that the House passed a bill to move the PPP application deadline from March 31st to May 31st. So right now, I believe that deadline is still March 31st, but we anticipate that that may be extended. Regarding our office, we have three separate areas that we're primarily responsible for. One is our commercial lending. We offer financial assistance to startup and existing businesses for growth, expansion, retention, and the creation of new jobs. We also offer assistance in the redevelopment of the commercial corridors. Funding is only available to those businesses that are located within the City of Columbia limits. However, our other program areas are open to any business that is interested in working with the city. We offer contractor and supplier diversity programs, which include training and support for city initiatives designed to increase the local contractors' capacity to compete for government contracts and other procurement opportunities. It's really important to the city that our procurement reflect the diversity of our great city, and we do that through subcontractor outreach, mentor protege, local business enterprise, and the Columbia Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. We'd be happy to share with you any additional information regarding those program areas if you contact our office. Lastly, we have our technical assistance education and advocacy area, which provides business development assistance and courses for startups and existing businesses that are looking to grow and expand. Some of the topics we cover include marketing, the use of social media, business plan development, finances, legal issues, and more. We're always looking for opportunities to share this very important information with our small business community. So if there are any topic areas that you are interested in learning more about, please contact us and we'll see if we can provide a training for that. Here's our contact information. Although our physical office is closed, you can reach us by calling us at 803-545-3950, or you can email us at obo@columbiasc.gov, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Now I want to introduce our panelists, Mr. Tony Grant and Mr. Hamilton Grant. After working with Bank of America for 20 years, Mr. Tony Grant formed Grant Business Advisors, also known as GBA, a strategic and financial advisory firm for middle market and small business companies, churches, for-profit, and not-for-profit entities. He has spent the last 19 years as a business owner providing coaching, strategic, and financial advisory services. During Mr. Grant's entire 40-year career, he has successfully directed business advisory activities to arrange and coordinate over $1 billion in commercial financing and commercial projects for national, regional, and local organizations. Hamilton Grant currently serves as president for GBA. For over 10 years, Hamilton has worked with the company in a leadership role. He is responsible for many of the financing projects for the company. Hamilton works for clients to understand your financial needs and develop solutions. So I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Tony Grant and Mr. Hamilton Grant.
Thank you so much, Aisha, and to the City of Columbia's Office of Business Opportunity, and for all of our viewers for tuning in this afternoon. Thank you so much for being with us. This afternoon, as discussed, Dad and I will be talking about the Economic Injury Disaster Relief, Disaster Loan Program, and so this very important piece of information we hope to share with you. We look forward to engaging in some dialogue and some question and answers. As noted before, if some questions come up, if you would put them in the chat, as our partners and friends will help us get to those, and we'll make sure we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. And so with that, we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so what is the EIDL? So in response to COVID-19, small businesses, small agricultural cooperatives, and most private nonprofits located in declared disaster area which have suffered substantial economic injury may be eligible for these SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan. So this is an SBA loan. So the purpose of this is to meet financial obligations, operating expenses that could have been met but were not met because of the disaster, which is important. And so really this loan steps into place of saying, hey, we could have met these obligations and these accomplishments and these goals, but because of the disaster, we had limited resources and were not able to fulfill our duties at the best of our abilities. These loans come with terms. One of the terms is a 3.75% interest rate for businesses, which is fixed. And if you're a nonprofit, it's at 2.75, which is again fixed. These fixed interest rates are for 30 years with no prepayment penalty or fees, which is awesome. So what that means is if you take on this loan and this responsibility of getting this loan, if you decide to pay it off early, you're not penalized for that, which is different from several other different loans in different loan money processes where you could be penalized for paying off the loan early. So this is really good in that extent. Your use of proceeds, which is very important. Last week, when we discussed the PPP, we talked a lot about what you can use PPP for. And then we also highlighted what you cannot use it for, because what you cannot use it for can get you in trouble. We don't want to get anybody in trouble. So the use of proceeds is for working capital and normal operating expenses. So some examples of that will be a continuation of health care benefits for either yourself or for your employees, paying rent if you're a leasing situation, utilities, or fixed debt payments. So that's very important to know that what you can and cannot use it for. Your collateral requirements for loans over $25,000. The Small Business Administration uses a General Security Agreement, also known as a UCC, which designates business assets as collateral, such as machinery, equipment, furniture, and fixtures, and etc. So is it forgivable with a EIDL loan? Yes, but an EIDL loan advance. So advance funds have been fully allocated but are not currently available. So that's something important to note and to watch as we move forward with this process.
Hey, Hamilton, let me just interject here. EIDL loans are not forgivable, but the EIDL advance is. And the other point that I want to note as well is for loans that over $200,000 for an EIDL, the SBA will require your personal guarantee.
Thank you. As we move forward to the next slide, please. All right, great. Thank you. So, who is qualified for this? Small business owners and qualified agricultural businesses in all U.S. states and territories are currently eligible to apply for the low interest loan due to COVID-19. Agricultural businesses with 500 or fewer employees are now eligible as a result of the new authority granted by our Congress in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The agricultural businesses include those businesses engaged in the production of food and fiber, ranching, raising of livestock, aquaculture, and all other farming and agricultural related industries, which is defined by Section 18B of the Small Business Act. And so your EIDL loan eligibility and loans are approved again by the Small Business Administration. And so with that, as we move forward, I'll turn it over to Tony Grant as he goes into further details on how the process is streamlined and the application process.
Okay. I see that there's a question in the chat about if you got EIDL from our good friend, Ms. Lacenta Lewis Ellis, requesting that if we got EIDL, can you get more? You can request an increase up to $150,000, but you can request an increase on your EIDL. That obviously you'd have to justify it, but in your application you have to write increase and request an increase for your EIDL loan.
And Mr. Grant, I'll be monitoring the Q&A portion of the questions. So if anyone has any questions, I will be monitoring them. The chat is disabled, but you can put your question in the question and answer button in the chat and we'll respond whenever you're ready, Mr. Grant.
All right, fantastic. So thank you very much. I'm extremely grateful. We are extremely grateful to the City of Columbia. Just a little background on our company, a 5-second plug. Hamilton and I, and as Ms. Triggers has stated, we have commercial and small business background. I ran Bank of America small business background for North and South Carolina and small business lending platform. And I ran the commercial lending platform here in the City of Columbia for Bank of America. And also on a national basis, I was chairman of the asset quality review function for the corporation, and I was president of multicultural banking for Bank of America Corporation. So I just wanted to share that in addition to this experience, what we bring to the table is commercial and small business lending experiences to the table. I'll be next slide on page 4, I believe. 3, 4. Yeah. The streamlined process. Go back to the other page, please. Your online application. The streamlined process. And I apologize that this is not very legible. So, and I apologize for that. But what I wanted to give you a feel for is with EIDL, it is an online process, meaning you'll have to go to the SBA site or other sites to access the application, but it's a direct form that you will pull down, fill out, and complete online and submit online. Differently from PPP. All of us, and those of you who are familiar with both, recognize that with PPP, you completed the application and it was actually submitted by a bank. In this case, this is different. So I wanted to make certain that you know where to access these application so that you may fill it out and complete the application online through their online process. Okay. The next question. So if you look at eligibility, entity verification. So it says applicant is a business with not more than 500 employees. And so there are some thresholds. So want to make certain that you're conscientious and knowledgeable of those thresholds that you can, that you'd have to complete. And so with those thresholds and with this online process, you know, the first section you choose one, the next section you'll have to choose all of them. And I didn't put all of these online verifications or the online application, but I did want to, I did go to the site and so that you can have some idea of what's required. If you go to the next slide, please. They'll get more in detail about your application, more business information, business revenue, cost of goods sold. In some cases, and I'm going to do a comparative analysis. If you look at PPP required you to provide some documents depending on which approach you were going with. And so if it was a total net income approach, then it was one set of documentation, Schedule C. If in this case, when you complete this application, you will complete the application and immediately it'll tell you what you might be eligible for. That does not mean you're approved, but it'll come back and say, here's what you may be eligible for based on what you've submitted thus far. They will assign you a loan officer. That officer will communicate direct with you, and they'll send you information to sign up for a portal. And that portal, into their portal, it will tell you that you put in a username, you put in an ID, and then they'll communicate with you that way. If you have questions, there's a toll-free number for you to call to verify those questions. In fact, let's go to the next page and just more of the application process, but go to page 7, if you will. And so again, you receive a loan quote of what you're eligible for. It's an estimate. It doesn't mean it's approved. And applicant needs to choose loan amount up to this maximum. So even though you're approved for 50,000, you may say, well, I don't want 50,000. I just want 30,000. And that is what you will select. Although you're approved for a higher amount, you don't have to take all of it. Okay. The loan officer, again, reviews your application for the completeness, and then they may or will contact you if there's more information. I've been told that in addition to Schedule C, they may just ask you to send them a copy of your 2019 tax return and your full return. Don't be surprised if you're asked to do that, and they may require you to do that, and that is in their final decisioning process. And so they'll tell you what they need and what additional documentation that they need. It says to you that number 4, they'll make a decision. They'll tell you whether it's approved or declined. We'll talk about that, but the email is sent to you, and you'll be asked to choose the loan amount and then sign the loan documentation, and then you'll download a copy for your records. But nevertheless, I do want you to know that that decisioning process, even though you receive a quote, that amount has not been finally approved. And so you should keep that in mind. If you go to the next page, if you're declined, Here's some of the things you could be declined for. Again, unsatisfactory credit history. Unlike PPP, PPP was an emergency situation. And based on that, in order to receive PPP, they did not pull your credit history. In addition to that, it did not go to underwriting, okay? And so in this case, the fact that it's assigned to a loan officer, there is an underwriting process. Credit history has been pulled, and they will make some determination from that. So that's the difference between the two programs. One doesn't because it's an emergency, and that's PPP, and the other does, and the EIDL does. They may have information that they can't verify. And again, you have a time frame to respond. You got to respond within 7 days for the request for additional information about a loan officer. And if not, your application could be declined. You obviously can come back and ask for reconsideration and to reactivate your application. But the whole effort is to get the money and get it out fast. And, again, they're working on your file. They're giving you 7 days to get the information back. If you don't get it back to them, they're going to decline it. You may go back and ask for it to be reactivated, or there's a process for having declined applications reconsidered. But understand that there's a timetable, and their effort is to respond to the timetable and respond to those businesses. The other point, Hamilton said it earlier, but EIDL loans are available for nonprofit organizations, including churches. So want to make certain that we all understand that it's for-profit and not-for-profit. And even in the pricing structure, the not-for-profit interest rate is 1% below what the for-profit interest rate is. For-profit is 3.75% fixed for 30 years, and the non-for-profit is 2.75. So somebody can say, well, I don't need all this money for all this year, and paying that, if I get $50,000 and I pay it off over 30 years, then I pay that loan back, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. And the consideration is that you don't have to. You can prepay it at any time. And so you can borrow the funds on a loan of, and I ran some numbers for some calculations for you, and we'll get to those in a minute, but you can prepay the loan at any given time, okay? Other reasons for declinations, you may be ineligible as a non-U.S. citizen. You must be a U.S. citizen, and there's some other things that you refer to, standard procedures, operational procedures in the sections there. Your business activity may not be eligible. And then your economic injury may not be substantiated. And then there could be character reasons. So just look through those. The SBA website is phenomenal because it gives you so much information, so much data. They've done a phenomenal job with their questions and answers. They've done a number of Q&As from so many different perspectives. It really is a well thought out, in my opinion, website that answers a lot of questions, and there are a lot of Q&As, questions with detailed information about what to complete, how to complete it. And so I commend the SBA for the work that they've done there in anticipation, if you will. Now, I also want you to be aware that there are different types of EIDL loans. So we're speaking specifically about the COVID-19 EIDL. There are non-COVID EIDL loans. So you want to make certain you're specific in terms of what you are requesting. In addition to that, there are different types of EIDL loans, as I mentioned. There's the EIDL loan from the perspective that we're talking about, but then there's targeted EIDL advance. And then there was an EIDL advance that's closed, that's now moved into what they call, and this is limited eligibility, a targeted EIDL advance. And so you say, well, what's the difference? Well, one, the targeted EIDL advance, this is an emergency grant. It provides working capital to businesses and nonprofits located in a low-income community, and you suffered a reduction in revenue of greater than 30% and have 300 or fewer employees. Okay, so keep in mind, there is a distinction of a non-COVID EIDL, and a targeted EIDL advance. Make certain you understand the difference between all three of them and that you are aware of what you're asking for. Additionally, when you are approved for an EIDL, they will, once the decision is made, the SBA will contact you. They will let you know your loan has been approved, and they will wire the proceeds, the dollar amount, to your business account. They will ask you for ABA routing number, an account number, and then sometimes they may ask you for a copy of a voided business check. But again, they will get those funds to you. In addition to that, the payment structure. There's an automatic 1 year deferral. So if you got the loan in 2020, your first payment wasn't due until 1 year later. If you got it in 2021, your first payment isn't due until 2022. All EIDL loans that are approved in 2020 that had a 1 year automatic 1 year deferral, those deferrals have been pushed out into 2022. Okay. Questions? I'll stop to see if there are any questions at this juncture.
Yes, Mr. Grant, we got a lot of questions in the Q&A, and I'm going to start in the order as they came in. The first one is from Michelle Priester. She wants to know, is the EIDL loan available to businesses that started in late 2020? The PPP had a cutoff of February, which disqualified our business.
Yeah, I think that I think you're okay. While we're talking, I'll research that and come back to you. But I do think that you may be eligible. I'll say may, and I'll come back and confirm that.
Okay. All right. The next question is from Pat. The IRS is behind in processing taxes. The SBA is requiring the 2019 taxes. Is there anything else we can do to be approved for a loan, but the IRS transcript is not available yet?
That to me, that means they haven't filed 2019 taxes. So you must have filed 2019 taxes in order to be considered for an EIDL loan. If you haven't filed 2020, that's one thing, but the loan officer may ask you to send a copy, and that may be the reason why if they don't look at can't get a copy of the transmittal, they may ask you to send them a copy of your tax return where you signed it and sent it in.
And yeah, if I could jump in, because that's very important. As noted, there is a huge backlog with taxes being filed or being processed. So what that basically means is if you filed already, sending your information, but still don't have a transcript on the IRS website, it's nothing that you've done. It's just the backlog is that great from 2019. And they're anticipating a backlog in 2020 as well, which is why they pushed out the deadline to submit. What I would recommend is talking to your lender. If you already had them filed with a CPA and they've prepared it for you, to see if your lender will take that prepared copy, noting that the IRS is having an extreme backlog. Some lenders may be open to that, some may not be. I think it really just depends on who you're speaking with and their knowledge of understanding the unfortunate circumstance that the IRS has a lot of us in.
And in this case, when he says the lender, the only lender in this case is the SBA. And so that SBA loan officer, if they're trying to get a transmittal, they aren't able to get it, but they want to be responsive to you, then they may just ask you send them a copy of the return.
Okay. All right. The next question is from Shaniqua Green. She wants to know, how can you resubmit an application for reconsideration? I was denied because I did not show a loss. I was confused by the questions regarding the goods sold.
Okay. So there is a process for where you've been denied. And if you go to this SBA site, there's it says after a certain period of time, if you've been your application is declined, you have up to 6 months to request reconsideration. That deadline approaches December 31st of 2021. Okay. And to do that, you have to email, and the email address is P as in Paul, D as in Doctor, C as in cat, R as in Robert, E as in Echo, C as in cat, O as in Oscar, N as in Nancy, and S as in Sam. But pdcrecons@sba.gov. And I'll give that information to Ms. Kalina or Ms. Driggers, and we'll post it. But you got up to 6 months to ask for a reconsideration, and you can email it or you can send a letter to the SBA administration asking that they reconsider your declined application, and they will do that. But in that, you've got to include your business name, borrower's name, tax ID, application loan number. That loan officer, when they communicate with you, they'll give you a number to tell you, here's your number, your loan number or your application number. But they'll give you all of that, and you have to request in a letter why you want to be reconsidered.
Okay, and Angela Brewer with South Carolina District of the SBA office, she put some information in the Q&A as well. She did put that email address in there, and again, that email address is P as in Paul, D as in Delta, C as in Carolina .reconsideration@sba.gov. And she also said that your business must have been in operation as of February 2020 in order to apply for EIDL.
Right. That's what I was researching, and thank you.
Okay, the next question is from Ed. He wants to know, I received notification that my EIDL loan has been transferred to the U.S. Treasury. Is that correct, or is that a phishing scam?
Well, it would depend on who it came from. There's a loan number. So once you hear back from the SBA on your application, there's a toll-free number to call. And so I would call that number, and the loan officer's name is provided. They will get that to you. Call them and ask them if you are uncertain, but call and ask before you take any actions on that. And they will tell you that it has been transferred or it hasn't been transferred. But that's what you're able to do. And they're very proficient in getting back to you. So they will get back to you and let you know about whether it has been transferred. Haven't heard about that, but nevertheless, doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Okay, this is the last question from M. Williams. This may be, she wants to know, I did the LLC and opened a bank account to start a business in 2019 and was in the process of trying to secure startup capital, but have not done so. Is the EIDL loan an opportunity? Is the EIDL loan an option I would be eligible for?
Yeah, keep in mind that with the EIDL application, you've got to demonstrate there are questions about your business. There'll be questions about the operation of your business. So if you open up the account but did not go in the process of providing business and business services, it's kind of hard for me to understand why you would want to apply, or why you would apply if there's no revenue that you've already generated. So it's not there to help you as startup capital. It's there to assist small businesses that have been in operation that have been impacted by the coronavirus. So again, don't want you to misconstrue it. It's not startup or free money. You got to pay it back. But in addition to that, no, it's for working capital, one of the needs, but working capital and some of the other business needs, again, you've got to demonstrate with your tax return that you've generated some revenue and you've generated some income from your business. But if you started that business but didn't generate any revenue as a result of starting that business, then it would be hard. I would be hard pressed to see how you would apply for an EIDL loan. Again, that's just on the surface. I don't know what the additional parameters are, but nevertheless, that would be my response to you. And again, not to misconstrue what the program is. It's to help those that have been in business. And if you've just opened up the account, it's one thing. But if you have generated income as a result of it, again, that could be something that may be difficult to accomplish.
Okay, and we got one more question.
Okay.
I have a personal question about EIDL. I received on February 25th, 2021, something saying I could apply for EIDL again, provided I did not receive the $10,000. So I applied again, and they said I was approved for $5,000. I received $5,000 back in July. I have signed the loan authorization, but have not heard from anyone. So who do I need to speak to regarding that issue?
All right, there is a number that you can call, a customer service number. And let me give it to you. And this is their customer service center. It's 800-659-2955. 800-659-2955. And if they are hearing impaired, the number is 800-877-8339. Okay, but the service center would be a place I would start. Mention to them what your issue is, and then they will get back to you. But again, they've been very proficient, and you got to imagine what's going on at SBA. All of a sudden their lives have been redirected. They got all this money and they got to get it out the door. And so, but I think they're doing a fantastic job. People are receiving their money in a very timely manner. They're working on the weekends. you know, so it's a very, very, you know, my hat's off to SBA.
Okay, and that's all we have for right now. And if there are any other questions that were not answered, please put your answers in the Q&A portion, and we will address those questions when we get when Mr. Grant ready to answer them.
Okay. Next slide, please. One of the things I did is, and I'm showing the difference in payments. You know, this is a 30-year loan. And so I did different option one. I use if you got 25,000, 35,000, 50,000, 75,000, and 100,000. So I use different dollar amounts to give you an idea of what your monthly payment will be. Now, this is a suggestion. I don't want anybody to think that this is the exact. There is a note process that you will sign that you'll have all the particulars of what your note says. Okay. Keep in mind that this is just an idea or suggestion. So if the loan amount is 25,000, if it's for a for-profit business, interest rate at 3.75, 30-year amortization, your payment is $115.78. As with 35,000, same particulars, 375 interest rate, and 30-year AM, that payment goes up to $162.09. And 50,000 is 231.56, 75,000 is 347.34, and 100,000 is 463.12. And so I wanted to just give you some idea of what the payment structure will look like. Keep in mind there's a 1-year deferral, and you'll get a letter from the SBA and advising you when your first payment will begin, and you can write a check or go online and pay online. So they've made it very user friendly for you, but nevertheless that process is included, and it's a user friendly process. If you look at the next slide, and it's what I did for churches. What we've done for churches, Hamilton and I, same structure, same increment of dollars, 25, 35, 50, 75, and 100. Again, the interest rate in this case is the difference. 2.75 for churches, and I say churches, but it could be not-for-profit. It could be XYZ nonprofit organization. It could be Boys and Girls Club. It could be so-and-so, so-and-so. But they have to have a 501c3 designation and other designations in order to be compliant with a not-for-profit status. And so you want to make certain that that you are eligible for as a not-for-profit entity, and that information is available. You may be required to submit documentation that supports that, and in doing that, you will just tell them what that is, etc. The payment on these loans. One of the things I want to mention to you also, if you are a business, a for-profit business, you have a credit facility with another bank, and your loan amount exceeds $25,000, then this loan is secured. And it's secured. And if you go back to the slide where Hamilton mentioned about UCCs, I think that was the second page, second slide, where it says collateral requirements. Next, yes. You see where it says 25,000? SBA uses general security agreement. So it is a general security agreement, but the collateral interest is perfected by filing a UCC 1. And that UCC 1 will be filed with the Secretary of State, and it will note that SBA is taking machinery and equipment, furniture and fixtures, etc. Here, I want you to be careful that you're not pledging your assets twice. Because if you have a bank loan that's secured with these things, obviously the UCC that's of record would be of record prior to the SBA's guarantee. But if you ever pay that equipment loan off, or any other loan that's secured with UCC filing, accounts receivable, inventory, things of that nature, excuse me, or chattel properties, once that UCC is paid off, then the SBA moves to a primary position, priority position, until your loan is paid off. In some cases, they may be willing to, if you have to, ask them to subordinate it. But I just want you to be conscientious of that. And the other thing is that as a lender, if the lender ends up having something to occur with them, and they have a lapse in filing of UCCs, then meaning that the UCCs are for 5 years. And if in fact it's not paid off, or if in fact it's not extended or renewed, and that UCC goes away, the SBA UCC steps in its place. I'll pause for a minute for questions.
Okay, we have just one additional question that came in. This person said that their business began in late 2019. There were a couple of months of demonstrated sales. I received a portion of the EIDL, which equal to $1,500. I projected what my sales would have been in 2020. I haven't heard anything. Am I not being considered because I was only open for a short portion of 2019?
Yeah, again, those types of questions, I would take that customer service number and I would call them just to be certain. But nothing like talking to the source. Give them your loan number, or give them your application number that they provide you from day one, and they will research it, and they will give you the details, and they'll give you the particulars, and they would direct you in terms of pointing you in the right direction in order to get the matter cleared up. Don't assume anything. And what I mean by that is it's up to you. They have so many applications to process. If you have questions, you've got to raise your hand. If you got questions, you got to follow up with them. But keep in mind that there is a deadline for reconsideration. And so you have to get 6 months after your application. And so, there's a total hard stop of December 31st, 2021. So you got to make sure that you keep all of those dates in mind, so that you're able to go back to them, ask for reconsideration, ask for clarification on a matter that involves you. But yeah, that's the process.
Okay, and just so you know, we do have Angela Brewer with the South Carolina District Office of the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA. And if it's okay with her, I will put her information in if anyone has any questions regarding anything that was asked today. So Angela, let me know if it's okay with you, if I could give your information as far as your email address and phone number. And that's, wait a minute. Okay, we have one more.
Before you go there,
okay,
I'd ask Miss Angela if there's anything she'd like to add.
Okay.
Is she not on which she could speak?
I don't think she's on as a panelist.
Okay. All right. Very good.
But if it's okay with her, I think she's put her information in the Q&A, but I'll release it again with her permission if it's okay to do that. The last question was from Sandy. She wants to know, does debt be paid with the EIDL loan money? I have an SBA revolving loan that is maturing at the end of the month.
And what was the question?
The question was, can business debt be paid with the EIDL loan money? I have a SBA revolving loan that is maturing at the end of the month.
Well, if I had to make that call, I mean, if you look at use of proceeds, I mean, there are very specifics about use of proceeds. Let's just take it apart. Working capital, that's one. Normal operating expenses. And then continuation of health services and care, healthcare benefits, rent, utilities, fixed debt payments. Okay, so working capital or a line of credit that is coming due, depending on how, how it's the definition. But in my opinion, fixed debt payment means I got a term loan, which is fixed debt, and I have to pay that monthly payment, being a truck, being equipment, being a copier that I'm financed. That's fixed debt in my opinion. If you've got a working capital line that's maturing, then I would question whether that falls within that purview. In order to clarify that, however, don't take my word for it. Please call the SBA Service Center just to make certain. Ms. Brewer's number is, her email address is angela.brewer@sba.gov, or the toll-free number I gave you earlier. You may call and ask for clarification and get a direct response from them and document that response. But if you've got a credit facility that's coming due, and it is a line of credit, then either you have got to term that line of credit out, or you're going to have to go to a lender and get it refinanced, or find out what are the other refinancing options that might be available. But use of proceeds, working capital, in my opinion, you want to make certain you're not using those funds in a manner that's inappropriate.
Okay, and we just had somebody to put their information in the chat as well. Valerie Torsenson, she's also a point of contact with SBA, but she covers much of the upstate area of South Carolina. So if your business is located in the upstate, you have any questions for her, you can contact her at valerie.torsenson@sba.gov. Her contact information, her contact number is 803-253-3123, and I'll put that in the chat as well. And that is all the questions that we have right now, Mr. Grant.
I have to call my friend Greg White and tell him that he had so many folks on the line. But nevertheless, I hope we've given you the information that's helpful to you. This is a very, very worthy and a much needed funding program. Again, new monies have been made available. $7.25 billion for PPP, and $15 billion for targeted EIDL. And so, and I'm certain, as Ms. Driggers said earlier, some of these programs will, in terms of their efforts to obtain additional funding to help Columbia businesses that have been impacted by the coronavirus or COVID-19. But very helpful and just very straightforward. Questions? Hamilton, anything you want to add, sir?
No, I'm good so far.
Okay. So I would just stop here again and see if there I know I've asked were there any questions, and I apologize, y'all. Let me turn my my camera off. But that's our contact information is provided here. Our website, Hamilton's mobile and email address, and my mobile and email address. I know we've allotted more time, hour and a half. I'm happy to take any additional questions, and happy to talk any more about the EIDL, but it really is a straightforward process.
Mr. Grant, I have a question regarding EIDL. So, and I'm just curious because I'm not a business owner, but I just wanted to know for those who are in the process, how do they determine your, as far as what amount that you receive for the loan? How do they determine that? Can you kind of explain that process to us?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Ms. Kalina. I have not seen a formula about how they decide what it is. I mean, it's with PPP, that's very knowledgeable. That, you know, they take a percentage of your net income, your 12-month average, and multiply it. So if it's 100,000, 12 months would be 8,333, and multiply that by a 2.5 factor. And that's how you get to what you're eligible for in the PPP. On the EIDL, I am not certain in terms of what that formula is, nor do I know whether that's been printed anywhere or documented anywhere in terms of what your eligibility is. And even with PPP, under the second round, they came back and they changed it. They said you don't have to just, you're not just eligible off of net income, but you could be eligible based on, your gross receipts of gross income. And but there's on the round two, there's $100,000 cap. So even if it's 160 as your gross income, the formula for round two caps it at 100. And so even if it's 100, you're still going to get back to that 8,333. You'd have to take the 100 divided by 12 and then multiply it by 2.5. But yeah, so to answer your question, Ms. Kalina, Ms. Ginyard, I'm not certain what that formula is.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. But they will tell you when you make your application what your quota is and what you're eligible for. And I stress that doesn't mean that's what you're approved for until you get that correspondence from them saying you have been approved and here's the amount you've been approved for. Okay.
Okay, and can I ask one more another question?
Yes, all the questions you want, ma'am.
Okay. When applying for EIDL, what information would you say SBA, as far as making sure that the applicant, whoever applies for it, what information they should have when applying for an EIDL loan?
They're going to ask you just basic general information, and some of that is on page 2. This is page 7, I think it is. So some of that is they're going to know your revenue. If you look at page where it says COVID-19 disaster application, second page where it says online application, they're going to ask you your gross revenue for the 12 months to the date of business, date of disaster. They're going to know your cost of goods sold for the 12 months prior to the date of the disaster, your rental properties, nonprofit agriculture. But, they're going to ask you to supply that information. And then to verify that information, they will ask you to possibly ask you to submit the return so that they may be able to verify what you put there. Okay?
All right.
So the application will tell you specifically what they're looking for.
Okay. And we just got a question that came up in the chat. They want to know, is there anyone we can talk to about the targeted EIDL grant? I am surrounded by low income areas, but for some reason, my area is not considered low income.
Yeah, Miss, the representatives and the executives on the phone from the SBA can tell you specifically, and perhaps they can tell you why it's not targeted. But Miss Powell and the other person you mentioned, they can give you the specifics. Generally, it's probably driven by maps. Generally, it's maybe driven by other economic data that the government has. And perhaps that may determine why you're approved or why you're on a targeted list and why you aren't on a targeted list. But again, the EIDL, targeted EIDL, these are not loans. These are grants. So they don't require repayments. But it's not a whole lot of money. It could be $10,000 or so, but you can't get more than $10,000 for EIDL advance and a targeted EIDL combined. But if you've got a question about eligibility and whether you're eligible and whether your area is eligible, that's an SBA question. Either the folks direct at the SBA or whether you call that toll-free number.
Okay. And Angela Brewer, she put an answer in the Q&A. She said that there is a map that based on the census that determines the economic guidelines. And Aisha, you want to go ahead and answer the
No, I was just going to tell Angela I'll send her that information so she can find us.
Okay.
And then I did see Jeff had some comments about the type.
Yeah, Jeff said that for the previous question, he said that normally they ask for a copy of your driver's license, 2019 federal tax return, and a voided check copy are almost always needed. That was the question I had as far as what do you need to apply for EIDL, and plus your banking account information.
Yeah, that was the other thing I forgot to tell you. Yeah, they will ask you to send a copy of the banking account information, and I will tell you that they're cross-checking. And thank you, Jeff, because they want to make sure they know who the borrower is. They want verification, and so they'll ask you to send a copy. And I think it's front and back of your driver's license. And then they'll ask you to send a copy of your bank statement. And that bank statement name will match up. I had a situation that the bank had changed names, but that person, and they'd merged with another bank, but that person was still using old checks. And then the name on the voided check did not match the name of the bank, but the routing numbers did. And so in cases like that, that loan officer will ask you to verify and provide additional information, or ask you to provide some justification thereof. And so, that is a situation that would be what you would be need to do. But the driver's license, It's just, any bank that you borrow money from will ask you a copy of a driver's license. Any lender. That's no different with the SBA. So they want to make sure they know, according to the Patriots Act, things changed after 9/11, but, the Patriots Act requires that they know who they're talking to and that they're able to verify that you are actually the person who borrowed the dollars. And so that's the reason why they'll get a copy of your driver's license.
And we don't have anything in the chat right now. And I just checked Facebook. There were no questions that came up on Facebook since we're streaming through our city's YouTube page. So we don't have any questions at this time.
Okay.
We're going to work on getting Angela added on the call now.
Gonna work on doing what?
Adding Angela to the call.
Okay, you're gonna do that now before we. Okay.
And while they're working on that, and Angela said she just wanted to talk about the targeted EIDL. So I think, Aisha, you're still working on getting her added on. And while we're doing that, Jeff made a comment. He said one common mistake on the applications was folks putting their expenses in the cost PF goods sold. This is wrong. Only put COGS.
Yeah. So let me give you an example. For a business that may, let's say it's a funeral home, and the funeral home generates revenue, but then they have cost of goods sold. Or what does it cost to generate that revenue? So those things that it costs to generate that revenue is identified as cost of goods sold. So that cost of goods sold, inventory, other things that are related to providing that service, providing that product is included in cost of goods sold. And so that number, that cost of goods sold, they'll ask you for your revenue, but they'll also ask you for your cost of goods sold. Two different things. And that's the cost of doing business to generate that revenue. There's some things that, there's a list of what's needed and what's identified and what's classified as cost of goods sold. But you want to make certain that you're on the same page with what's required. But that is never, so you start with your gross, your revenue, and then you net out your cost of goods sold, and that's how you get to your gross income.
Okay.
Net, go ahead.
And Mr. Grant, one question I want to ask, as far as EIDL for anyone that starts a business this year, if they're thinking about starting a business in 2021, they wouldn't be eligible to receive that, correct? Or would they be eligible?
I don't think they would. There may be a period from which they may be, and depending on how long this COVID goes along. But in my opinion, the whole reason we're doing it was to help small businesses because of this disaster. And if they're doing it on the back end of the disaster, if there's a period for once they start their business to a point where it ended, they may be eligible. That's a question that Ms. Angela or the other representative, but just my little 2 cents worth, I would imagine that you'd have to have been operating during that period of time, and you would have to have demonstrated some economic impact as a result thereof.
Yeah, I think Angela put in the chat, the business had to be in operation as of February 2020.
And Jeff just added, he said, no business must have started before pandemic was declared on January 31st, 2020.
Right. Okay.
Okay, nothing coming up in the chat right now. Aisha, were we able to get Angela on?
I've sent the link.
I see what someone sent it to Angela and you're waiting to see. It says, please let her know if you need to send it. Yeah, send it, and then we'll bring her through.
Well, Aisha's already sent that information to her, so she's trying to get on right now.
Okay, very good, very good. The thing I want you to go to is there is a 15-page document, as I mentioned at the start of my I'm sorry, 11 pages at the start of my presentation that is very, very thorough. And I would invite you to go to SBA.gov site and pull it down. It's got answers to all of your questions.
Okay, and we just had a comment put in the chat from Valerie Tortenson with SBA. She said, in terms of identifying whether a track is considered EID or targeted, we follow 26 USC in general. The term low income community means any population census tract if A, the poverty rate for such tract is at least 20%, or B, in the case of a tract not located within a metropolitan area, the median family income for such tract does not exceed 80% of statewide median family income, or in the case of a tract located within a metropolitan area, the median family income for such tract does not exceed 80% of the greater of statewide median family income or the metropolitan area median family income.
And we do have, Angela is on now, I think, so she might be able to.
Hey, Ms. Powell, how are you?
Good afternoon. And I'm doing well. How about you all? I normally don't speak during these events, but a lot of people had questions about I used to stop laughing. You know, I hate speaking.
We love you.
But with the targeted EIDL, it was not for everyone when they sent it out. If you all remember correctly, last year we ran out of funding. I think it was in July of last year. The targeted EIDL was for those who didn't receive the full $10,000 that was allocated. So, you know, it said up to $10,000. So if I think someone said they received $5,000, they were supposed to receive $5,000 because they received $5,000 last July. That's what the targeted EIDL was for, was to offset the amount they didn't send you last year. So if you only received $2,000 or $5,000, they sent your email after they checked to verify that you were still in a low income, the rate. And like I said, it's determined by the census. So I guess when they did the census this go around, they had already calculated, and they came up with a map that had, if you put your address, your zip code in there, and it would tell you whether you lived in that area. But if the gentleman, I think a gentleman sent an email say he received an email back in February, but have not heard anything from them since then, please send me an email. I can forward it through my channels, the back channel, and get you an answer on what's going on if you receive that email saying that you were still eligible for the targeted EIDL. But the only way you can apply for the targeted EIDL now is if they email you. You just can't go through the EIDL portal like Mr. Grant stated stated how you apply for the EIDL to apply for the targeted EIDL. You have to be invited to apply for the targeted EIDL. I hope that clears up some of the misconception of people who were asking about the targeted EIDL. It was just created for those who applied last year when the funding ran out. So if the funding ran out before you received any money, and they sent your email asking, checking, making sure you were still in the economic depressed area, they will send you email. You just respond to that email, and that, it will automatically, you don't have to do anything else. It will automatically drop money in your account. I've received emails from people telling me they got money in their account. They don't know what it's for. That's what it's for. If they sent your email and you responded saying, yes, that's me, all my information is still correct, they would just drop funds in your account. You don't have to do anything else.
And we got a comment that just got added in the chat. Thank you, Angela. From Ms. Thompson, she said, I was told I was approved and signed the agreement for $5,000 they approved me for. Angela, you want to comment on that?
Okay, so it was a female. Ms. Thompson, please email me your loan application number. My email address is Angela, that's A-N, I think Kalina put it in the chat, but it's Angela, A-N-G-E-L-A, .brewer, B as in boy, R-E-W-E-R, sba.gov. Email me your loan application number with a brief synopsis of what's going on, and I will forward it through the back cave, through the back channels, and give you an answer. Make sure you have a good email address. And that's another thing that we've been getting a lot of calls. People who applied last year, they changed account this year, and they're not getting any money. So that's something that's coming up too. So if you applied for the EIDL last year, and you're getting the target advance now, please make sure you reach out to them, let them know you changed your account money, because money probably just sitting out there in la la land and you can't get it.
Okay,
that's a good point.
And I did put Angela's contact information is in the chat portion of the webinar. And again, her email address is angela.brewer, BREWER, @sba.gov. So if you have any questions, or if you have any questions regarding your loans, like Angela said, please email her with your loan application number and the issue regarding your loan, so she can feed it through her proper channels and find out what the issue is.
Okay. All right, Ms. Driggers, Ms. Kalina.
All right.
And
Give last chance to send us any other additional questions you may have. I will be sending out a link to this recording and also a survey so that you can tell us if you have any feedback for this event. You'll get that this afternoon. Hamilton or Tony, y'all have any? Mm-hmm.
Our information is provided in in this package. It'll be available online, I'd imagine, or in the recording.
Yes, sir.
And so, if you have any additional questions, then we're happy to do what we can to help. I want to thank Ms. Powell and the other folks from the SBA for their assistance, and hope we did a decent job of articulating the program and the characteristics and the content of the program. But yeah, we're very grateful to you, Ms. Driggers and others, Ms. Lindley, Ms. Kalina, Mr. Justice. And Hamilton, any questions, comments?
No, I'm good. Thank y'all. And if you have any additional questions, our contact information is on the screen.
All right.
And we've received a lot of great feedback, Mr. Grant and Mr. Grant. Everyone's very appreciative of this information you provided. Sometimes this information is kind of complicated, so we appreciate you breaking it.
Aisha, I'm sorry. We just got a question that
Okay.
just popped in the chat. Any chance on forgiveness for EIDL loans?
No, if you look at the second page of our presentation, go back to the second page there. Remember, these are loans that have to be paid. And so if it was an EIDL advance, then yeah, because those are grants, those are not loans. But if you look at the loan, again, let's make certain everybody understands. If it is a loan, you are required to pay it back. And it's a 30-year process. You will sign a note and you will be aware what your monthly payment will be. So for 30 years, 360 months, you will make a payment of XYZ per month, and that's your requirement. If you desire to pay it off early, you simply notify them, find out what the balance is, and make arrangements to get that payoff to them. But no, this is a loan. It says loan program rather than grant. So you are required to pay it back, and don't want any misnomer, miscommunication on this fact. It's a loan, and it is secured over $25,000. That's the other point. And if it's over $200,000, you have to provide your personal guarantee.
Okay. And we don't have any more questions in the chat. And thank you, Jeff, for your comments as well. Thank you for your feedback on some of the questions that were asked in the chat. And like Aisha said, that we will have this record. This was currently on our city's YouTube page. So if there are any portions of it you miss, and you can also go back to our City of Columbia YouTube page, and the recording will be there on the YouTube page at some point today.
All right.
Thank you so very much. We're extremely grateful.
All right. Thank you,
Everybody.
everyone.
Okay.
Okay.